I will call this organizational meeting of Council of the Municipality of Jasper to order for October 25th, 2022. As this is a special meeting in the sense that it is rare, it's an annual event only. I take this opportunity to acknowledge that we gather and meet on Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 territories, as well as Métis Region 4. This land is the traditional territory, meeting ground, gathering place, traveling route, and home for the Denza, the Hiawak, Anishinaabe, Secwepemc, Stoney Nakoda, and Métis. It is also the home for the residents we serve. As we commence the second year of our term and recognizing Council's strategic priority to build relationships with Indigenous peoples and to continue on the path of reconciliation, it is, I think, appropriate that we acknowledge the land, and we do so to honor the relationship Indigenous peoples have with this land, to remind ourselves of our responsibility and obligations to this place and to Indigenous peoples, and to affirm our accountability to address the ongoing impacts of colonization, which continue to affect Indigenous peoples. And I invite us all to keep those thoughts in our minds and in our hearts during this meeting and throughout the year ahead. Councillors, you have today's proposed agenda. Are there any deletions, additions, or other changes to be made to the agenda? Councillor Tomoda.
If I wanted to propose to have a discussion on adding a committee, should I set that in here or just wait till we come to the discussion? Does that need to be a formal part?
Such a motion would be in order under agenda item 5. Committee structure, we will approve a committee structure, and that would be the time to make a motion to alter in some way that committee structure.
Thank you.
If there is no other proposed change to the agenda, might I have a motion, please, that council approve the agenda for the organizational meeting of Tuesday, October 25th, 2022, as presented. Councillor Melnick, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. The first order of business then is to set the date, time, and place for regular meetings. Our practice has been to meet at 1:30 p.m. on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. Is there any discussion on that schedule? And if not, is the councillor prepared to make a motion that we set that date, time, on the place would be quorum room, subject to the availability of councillors to attend remotely? All right, I have a motion from Councillor Kelleher MP that council set the date, time, and locations for regular council meetings for the year 2023 as follows. First and third Tuesdays of each month, commencing at 1:30 p.m. at the quorum room in the Library and Cultural Center. Is there any debate on that motion? I will call the question in. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We must as well set the date, time, and place for committee of the whole meetings. Again, traditionally, our practice has been to meet in the quorum room at 9:30 a.m. on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. If there is any discussion about that, I'll invite that discussion now. Otherwise, I would look forward to a councillor making a motion to confirm those dates, times, and location. Councillor Wilson,
I would make a motion that we didn't have the whole meetings on the second, fourth Tuesday of the month, commencing at 9:30 a.m.
in this location.
in this location.
We need to set the place. So,
Scott's root deck.
all right, is there any debate on that motion? Hearing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We must also set a schedule to appoint deputy and alternate deputy mayors. Again, the practice over the last few years has been to rotate through that appointment for deputy mayor every 2 months. And the person who was last deputy mayor becomes alternate deputy mayor for the next 2 months. We had a schedule for last year, but that schedule is also open to debate or change, as is the length of term, although the 2-month term in a 4-year term gives everybody 8 months in the deputy mayor's seat. Any discussion about any proposed changes to either the schedule or the rotation? Councillor Wilson.
Last year I was deputy mayor for November 1st to December 31st. I'd like to request a change, and I'll be away for November. And it'd be pretty difficult to chair the meeting.
Just looking for my sheet. If anybody has a copy of that, well, I guess it's electronic. I will find it. And so, Councillor Wilson, you're proposing a change, but would you prefer a particular?
Well, if asked, I would request January and February, but I'm flexible. March, April would also be good. Summer months are a little bit more difficult, but I can also accommodate them. So,
Councillor Hall.
I have a quick question. Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Do we typically keep the same months term after or year after year?
We don't know yet because this is only the second year. So I can't say we've established a pattern, although I think the previous council did to a large extent keep the same rotation. And so right now I am, well, unless Councillor Demota becomes deputy mayor for November, December, I think he will continue as alternate deputy mayor. So that rotation, I think, is quite fixed, but otherwise it's open to us. Go ahead.
Because last year I was January 1st to Feb 28th, and I would trade with you. If that's if we do trade these here.
sure.
If that, I mean, that would just be an option.
And Councillor Calderon.
Last year I was March, April, and this year I will be away in April for a couple of weeks, so I would like somebody to trade with me. I'm really good from May 1 to the end of October, and around all that time, so if anybody is willing to trade with me, that would be great.
Thank you. Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did have, pardon me, I did have July 1st to August 31st. I could trade for the March 1st to April 30th. Although there will be 1 week, I know I'll be away during that time. So, Councillor Keller MP would like to change. I'd be happy to take from March 1st till April 30th.
I'm good with that.
I'm sorry,
I'd be July, August.
So did you see? July?
Kathleen never had it.
July, August. And I will be there.
Councillor Baxter,
I think I was just gonna say that I could do March, April, but that's, I'm fine staying where I am too.
and thank you for that. And did I hear earlier from you, Councillor Hall, that you could take November, December?
Yes.
Which leaves May, June, and September, October. Yes, Councillor Waxer, have you difficulty with either?
No, I could probably do either. I would probably, sorry, you said, May, June, or,
September, October.
yeah. I'm fine with either.
Okay, and Councillor Demotta.
I'm good with September, October.
All right, as I understand the discussion, the proposed lineup for deputy mayor will be Councillor Hall for November, December, with Councillor Demotta as alternate deputy mayor. For January, February of 2023, deputy mayor will be Councillor Wilson, and Councillor Hall will be alternate deputy mayor. For March, April 2023, Councillor Melnick will be deputy mayor, and Councillor Wilson will be alternate deputy mayor. For May, June, Councillor Waxer will be deputy mayor. Councillor Melnick will be alternate deputy mayor. For July, August 2023, Councillor Kelleher MP will be deputy mayor, and Councillor Waxer will be alternate deputy mayor. And September, October 2023, Councillor Demotta will be deputy mayor, and Councillor Kelleher MP will be alternate deputy mayor. Does that accord with everyone's understanding? Might I have a councillor make a motion to confirm that lineup? Councillor Hall, thank you. Is there any debate on the motion? Presume not. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Committee structure, you have been provided with a list of boards and committees. Are there any of those boards or committees which councillors believe should be eliminated? Or are there any other ones which councillors consider should be added? Councillor Demotta.
Well, I was waiting to see if somebody wanted to lead one. I did find that going through all our assignments or potential assignments that I felt very overwhelmed by the amount of work that councillors have to consider put themselves or assign themselves to. So I did want to establish or reestablish a traffic advisory committee because of all the changes that we've seen with speed limits and parking and things like that in the community. There are still some issues in some neighborhoods that I think some councillors were still willing or wanting to address. You know, on some side conversations, it was stated that maybe we should wait until the traffic study is completed But if we start from scratch on a new committee or wait till next year, then we're that much further behind. So I'm not sure. I know that there might be one counselor interested in being part of this. I don't want to overcommit myself, so this isn't something that I want to be part of right away. But I was on the last one before council decided to take it off our obligations, and I did find it helpful. Some other counselors didn't, but I think in the circumstances that we're in right now, that it might be pertinent, and it might have been a little bit more pertinent had we had this a couple of years ago. So I just thought through building some type of consensus here at the table, I didn't want to just throw it out there, but I'd like to lean on my fellow councillors to see, what your thoughts are.
Councillor Calhoun.
I'm curious what the committee did the last time. I never really understood it, to be honest, coming back, we had a few different changes for traffic light stars, that sort of thing, but we never really talked about safety, traffic lights, pedestrian lights. Is that the sort of thing you discussed there?
Yeah, I believe everything, traffic and those types of things did get discussed, and then recommendations did come to council. Some of them had to do with stop signs in certain areas. Some of them had to do with single lane parking and parking on both sides of the street, speed limits. And I'm not sure how, constructive it might have been, and maybe that's just needed to be addressed in the terms of reference and maybe representation, because I don't feel like we had anybody from Parks Canada there. I'm not sure if we need someone from Parks Canada there, but it did, I think, provide a lot more communication and have insight from the RCMP, and having the RCMP, our local protective services there, and our bylaw involved, I think contribute to a lot of cohesive work. And the last transportation study involved massive participation from that group there, and helped guide the information that came to the document that we last had. I think it can be put together by who council feels should be on there, and can address what councillors feel should be addressed in the community, whether again it's speed limits, or we had some great information come forward from Councillor Hall on not just having speed limits to slow traffic down, but there could be other recommendations on actual street structures and side accommodations that naturally slow traffic down. But I think those things need to come organically, instead of us piecemealing ideas and bringing them forward to council. I think if we're going to have a study and having some input on there, or using that information that comes from the study to advise council on next steps, those are just my ideas. I'm not sure. Go ahead.
I would simply suggest, if I may, and I don't want to interrupt Councillor Wilson, we certainly can use this opportunity to add a committee, but at this point, it would be the notion of a committee without any structure.
Mm-hmm.
So we could also use this opportunity to direct administration to develop terms of reference for a committee, and bring that back, and we can certainly add a committee at any time. Just generally on the topic, though, we used to have a traffic advisory committee. My understanding is that there continues to be, at least notionally, a traffic committee, which just doesn't include any councillors. So bylaw works with the RCMP and with Parks Canada and with operations as necessary to consider matters of a traffic nature, and then they come to council, and all council gets to engage in outcomes like speed limits in any event. That's not to say that we couldn't reinstitute a committee and have direct council membership on it. But in either event. I would think, and perhaps you've got some notes there to that anyway, Councillor Demota, but a direction to administration to return with terms of reference, so we know what we're getting into before we add a committee to the list, not blindly, but without structure. And I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Councillor Wilson. Go ahead.
No, I covered it. Just was gonna ask if a committee could be added midstream during the year. So yeah, I'm in support of it. I think it did good stuff. I think it's the right avenue for, say, somebody suggested a new crosswalk in certain areas and any country council. So I think it's beneficial, but yeah, we'll build in terms of reference first and then
I think maybe some of the confusion out there is there might be a traffic committee somewhere, but even when we were going through our struggles with wanting to develop speed limits in certain areas and stuff, I don't remember any specific recommendations coming forward. So I would like to see something more concrete, whether I'm involved or not. But I think I did have something to, set up here, and my motion was that council establish the traffic advisory committee and direct administration to develop a terms of reference for the committee. However, through consensus here and recommendations from the mayor, that maybe we just, I'd make a motion to direct that council direct administration to develop the terms of reference for our traffic advisory committee.
And return with that to the committee of the whole.
And return to that with a future committee.
Thank you for that, Councillor Demota. Is there any debate on that? Councillor Waxer? You're muted.
Sorry, no debate on that. It was just on some comments on different committees.
Thank you for that. Before I call the question, administration, Mr. Given, you're clear on that direction. Right, I will call the question then. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you for that, Councillor Demota. Are there any other suggestions for alterations to the list of boards and committees? Councillor Waxer.
Yes, I was appointed to the Communities in Bloom Committee, and the one meeting that I was invited to was cancelled, and I wondered if that committee could benefit from a terms of reference to set it up for success in the future. And then I also wondered whether the HR committee would benefit from terms of reference as well.
Right. Thank you for that, Councillor Waxer. Doesn't change the list, but if you wanted to make a motion to direct administration to develop terms of reference, that would be in order, although with respect to Communities in Bloom, I'm not sure, it's not really our committee, is it? We've agreed to join it, but it's sort of national in scope, and we didn't create it, I thought. Go ahead, Mr. Gibbon.
Your worship, I think maybe this is a part of the challenge that Councillor Waxer is raising. Communities in Bloom is a bit unclear, even to administration, but there is money that is in our budget for Communities in Bloom, and so it's a bit odd to have a financial resources dedicated to a use and a committee listed here that there's no, nobody really, as you just said, nobody really knows whose committee that is, who's convening that, who's organizing it, what is the money for, what is the purpose of the committee? Because it is an external body that is struck by the community. If it is, should they be coming to council to request funds? Or is it a council committee that council said, so administration isn't clear on this either. I think both. I'm a big believer in terms of reference for any committee that's established by council, where the council members are serving on, so that they can be clear of what the purpose is. So administration is certainly ready to support any direction from council with respect to development country office, or anything that's really see what there's a gap.
Thank you for that. So without putting words in your mouth, Councillor Waxer, I take it your motion is to direct administration to develop terms of reference for communities in bloom and sort of the Human Resources Committee, and to return with those draft terms of reference to a future committee of the whole meeting. And again, you seem to be saying something in the affirmative, but we couldn't hear a word.
I apologize, getting tired on the Zoom. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I had. Thank you.
All right, is there any debate on that motion? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Are there any other suggested changes? And that didn't change, by the way, the list, that's just an additional topic. So the list remains as has been presented in the agenda package. And if there are to be no other changes, might I have a motion that council approve the list of committees and boards for the year 2022-2023 as presented? Councillor Kelleher MP. There is no debate. I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Now, we've all come for it. Although it's not quite what it seems, that the procedural bylaw provides that the mayor nominates, but council appoints. So I will give you my nominations and I will see what you do with it. And I thank all of you for getting back to me with your desires and whatever the opposite of desires is.
I'd rather be in the dentist chair.
As indicated earlier by Councillor Demota, there are a great number of appointments. Obligations that councillors have increased over recent years. And so notwithstanding that each of you have areas of interest where you would like to focus, I approach this with several thoughts in mind. One is that some committees or boards are actively engaged in important work right now. It might be difficult to shift the players right now. So there is some value in continuity, regardless of the fact that others have a real interest in that particular subject matter. And the other guiding factor is to try and equalize the weight load. And so at the end of the day, equalizing weight load was a guiding factor. And I have been able to configure something that gives 5 appointments to 6 councillors and 4 appointments to 1. And that's as close to even as I could get, and about an equal number of alternate appointments. So here be the list, going from the top of the list that we have just approved. Emergency Advisory Committee, I'm proposing and nominating that it remain unchanged. The terms of reference require that the mayor be a member. Councillors Melnick and Waxer were earlier appointed, and I nominate them to be reappointed. And again, we have just been through an event. I think that it would be an excellent opportunity for the existing members of that committee to debrief with staff and be able to provide insights so that the next group of appointed people will have the benefit of that work. So that remains unchanged. Hospitality in twin communities. I will nominate that Councillor Waxer be reappointed, and having looked at Councillor Melnick's extensive obligations, I will nominate myself to take over working on that particular committee, and Councillor Waxer and I then may call upon Councillor Milne to help us out, and it'll be all official. Human resources, again, Councillor Milne was so overweighted with work. I am proposing that for human resources, Councillor Waxer and Hall be reappointed with the addition of Councillor DeMota. For the Jasper Municipal Library Board, again, relying on the benefit of consistency and knowledge gained in first year, I will nominate that Councillor Hall be reappointed to that. Legislative Committee, again, that committee has just undertaken a bunch of work. It's early in its tenure. So I am nominating a continuation of Councillor Hall, Councillor DeMota, and myself to that. Regional Assessment Review Board, although the notes say that the person must have taken the training, Councillor Wilson had been appointed. And so I'm going to suggest that continue on the assumption that you have whatever training is necessary.
I don't, but I've requested to get that training, so we'll follow up with administration.
Okay, thank you. For community conversations, again, judging requests against interest and everything else, community conversations are an opportunity for councillors to engage with community members, and sometimes within areas of interest that you wouldn't otherwise talk to people. So I have concocted nominations that switch everybody around so that you might wind up where you didn't think that you had an interest, that you will develop one. So early childhood, I will nominate Councillor Kelleher MP, with Councillor Hall being the alternate. For school-age children, I would nominate Councillor Hall with Councillor DeMota as the alternate. For adults, I would nominate Councillor DeMota with myself as the alternate. For seniors, I will confess to being one, so I will take that appointment with Councillor Melnick. I'll say nothing about where he sits as the alternate. Arts and culture, I would nominate Councillor Melnick with Councillor Calvarenti as the alternate. For recreation, I would nominate Councillor Waxer with Councillor Wilson as the alternate. And for environmental responsibility, I would nominate Councillor Wilson with Councillor Waxer as the alternate. For the Jasper Community Housing Corporation, again, there is work in progress that I fear might be delayed if there is a change in appointments now. So I would nominate Councillor Wilson and Councillor Melnick to continue. It appeared that we had only one alternate, but my list says that we ought to have two, so I would appoint Councillor DeMota to serve with Councillor Hall as alternates on the Jasper Community Housing Corporation. And my understanding is that if it is our job as council to appoint a chair, I would nominate Councillor Wilson to continue as chair of the Jasper Community Housing Corporation. With respect to external boards and committees, committees in bloom, I would appoint Councillor Waxer. Evergreens Foundation Board, I would appoint, or nominate at least, Councillor Calvarenti. Jasper Partnership, I debated whether we might change the way we do this entirely, and that would be that we appoint the deputy mayor. And so on a rotating basis, everybody would get an opportunity, just depends who's in the chair. However, I think that the partnership meets only maximum 4 times a year, so that would exclude some entirely, and so that might not be fair. So it's something that we could consider at a future time, but I would otherwise appoint Councillor DeMota or nominate Councillor DeMota as the appointed councillor for the Jasper Partnership, and I would serve as alternate. And I would proposed that I might often attend as the alternate, but I would not be the member.
To hold my hand? Anyway,
Just to know what's going on. To ask for Yellowhead Museum and Archives, I was prevailed upon strenuously for a reappointment, so Councillor Melnick is the nominee for that position. Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association, I would nominate Councillor Keller MP in the role of appointed councillor and Councillor Melnick as the alternate. For West Yellowhead Community Futures, Councillor Keller MP, of course, cannot serve on that, had to be replaced, and I would propose that Councillor Demota continue, joined by Councillor Melnick, with Councillor Waxer as the alternate. For the West Yellowhead Waste Management Authority, again, as you saw earlier today, is undergoing change, and Councillor Wilson and I have both been through that for a number of years. And it seemed appropriate to me that I nominate the two of us to continue. The Yellowhead Regional Library appointment, I would propose that Councillor Hall be given that appointment with Councillor Keller MP as the alternate. And the Rural Renewal Initiative stream, and this one difficult, I know that there is widespread interest in this new initiative, but to balance the load, and despite the earlier appointment, I would nominate Councillor Keller MP in that role. And that gives us, as I said earlier, 6 5s and 1 4, which is as close to equity as I could get. So those are my nominations, and I leave it to council to adjust as they see necessary. Councillor Demota.
Is everyone happy? Does anyone want to trade? I'm happy. I'm just putting it out there, like, you can raise the stakes. I know I can raise some of mine, if anybody wants any of mine.
As you all contemplate, just a reminder that although there are appointed members to community conversations, any councillor can attend any community conversation at any time as a citizen of the community. So don't feel that you've been denied those opportunities.
just for clarification.
On the community conversations, I didn't get down to the alternate for recreation.
Councillor Wilson.
Get that skate park built.
I appreciate that it's all brand new information for you. So I can allow as much time as might be required, but if a councillor is prepared to make a motion, I would accept that. Councillor DeMotte.
I would like to move, I move that council adopt the nominations for appointments by the mayor for the 2022-2023 year.
Thank you, Councillor Dora. And administration has the list, and I can provide the list back again in any event. Is there any debate? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We are required by our own procedural bylaw to confirm our strategic priorities. We set them very recently, so I'm not anticipating that they will change, but as a matter of policy, they must be confirmed at our organizational meeting. And they have been, well, the entire strategic priority document has been appended to the agenda. If there are any comments or suggestions, now would be the time. Otherwise, a motion to confirm as presented would be in order. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. The motion is that council confirm the strategic priorities for the 2022-2026 term as presented. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Now, it occurs to me that although adjournment is the next thing on our agenda, there is one matter that didn't get discussed. Perhaps more than one matter that didn't get discussed. The first item in the agenda package is the council meeting calendar. And we ought perhaps to confirm that calendar. If anybody recognizes anything on there that appears out of order, it would be nice to know. I'm not sure that we know. Well, September, no, we've avoided strategically, it looks like, our own municipal convention this year. Although the 26th of September next year might be a difficult day for committee of the whole meeting because it could be a travel day. Councillor Calgary.
Is it set in stone January 31 to 32nd of strategic planning? Is that a review?
Sorry,
Your worship, was that question? Administration certainly answered that, in consultation with the mayor. Administration did reflect in the calendar of time for council to do some strategic planning to review work on the strategic priorities and discuss the new topics as well as work on council sort of governance capacity and provision of lesser administration. But that's why the calendar is here for council to have a discussion over it.
Well, I can tell you now I'm not going to be here. I will be in Florida. So unfortunately, the dates don't work for me. I actually leave on the 31st.
Thank you for that. In discussions with our CAO, we thought it was appropriate that we build some time in so people have lead time, but not known schedules. So it's, firstly, we should perhaps confirm that there is a desire for a strategic planning review just to see how we're doing and where we're at. And then if we have to reconfigure dates, we can do that. You are gone, Councillor Calrampi, from the 31st till when?
Around the 15th, and then I'm gone April 2nd to April 14th.
Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I recognize that the 3 days was put in as a opportunity for review. Is it possible that we might be able to do the review in 2 days? And thinking about moving it 1 week prior to the Wednesday, Thursday, the 25th, 26th. Because we do get into periods of time where people are going to be away. And it is, I think, it's important for everyone to be there if we can. We're not developing a new strategic plan as we did the last time. We're reviewing and reaffirming, I think, the direction and working with administration as to, where are we going in the next year or two. I think that's the intent of this opportunity to get away. And perhaps with a 2-day period, that might be sufficient for us to do what we intend to do.
Thank you for that, Councillor Milne. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I think also too, it's a bit of a team building, team bonding time, and maybe we could actually leave as a committee of the whole on the 24th. We have a lighter agenda and leave that afternoon to get a full time away with each other.
Is there? I'm sorry, Councillor.
No, I wasn't saying that.
Are there? I believe that open then as a potential change, so the 31st of January, 1st and 2nd of February might be reassigned to the afternoon of the 24th, including the 25th and 26th of January. Right, we will note that and leave it aside. Are there other dates? Noticeably missing is the first Tuesday of January. So that would normally be a regular council meeting. It would be highlighted in dark blue. Do we want to? Yeah. Do we want to convene on the 3rd of January?
The more,
Go ahead, Councillor.
well, the more important question is, and I don't have last year's calendar in front of me, but I think the last time we would meet before that is the 20th of December, right? So I guess that would be just like summertime. We have yeah, it would be 3 weeks over that again. So we would be going from regular meeting to committee anyway.
Yes. One of the challenges, I think, even though for councillors, assuming that January 3rd is a recognized work day, it would mean though that the agenda has to be prepared on whatever the last Friday of the week is, which probably is not very conducive to staff relationships.
Friday the 30th.
So, yeah, so it would mean that we don't have a regular council meeting until the 17th of January, but it's just perhaps the way it should be. But I don't want us again to enter into this without clear notice that this is an intentional act. Councillor Jamal.
Well, the only thing that I could think of that would be of interest on having a meeting that day is that we don't have past budget at that time. That would give us an opportunity to then work or at least progress a little further. I don't know again, if the holiday season is the time to really do that. So I'm throwing that out for contemplation.
Councillor Malik?
Thank you, Mayor Island. I recognize, Councillor Demota's point. But if that's the case, we'll know in December. And then we can choose to come back on that day. I don't think we have to set it today, but I think he brings up a good point that we'll have one more meeting day that we could sit to review strictly the budget. Just recognizing, if I may, it's better for administration to know as early as possible to be able to start capital projects and so on.
Agreed. Good reason to have a budget confirmed before the end of December.
Exactly.
So that is on us. But I do agree with the point. If we need to make use of that time or time in there, we can always attend to that later. It need not be attended to today on the assumption that we won't get our job done and approve the budget beforehand. Is there anything else, Councillor Demota?
Yeah, sorry to add to the time here at the end of the day. You did address potentially the 26th of September. I don't know if we traditionally cancel that one because of councillors going to Alberta Municipalities Conference early or have sessions that day, because some of us leave Monday. So we will struggle with the quorum. You know, maybe we can assess that as we get closer, but I know that some administrators go away too. But that could be done on the fly.
Yes, everything is always open to adjustments. All right,
Sorry, Your Worship, I have one more thing,
yes,
as it not relates to meetings, but relates to holidays. And I believe that it's a federal holiday now on September 30th, which we should, and I think it's a provincial holiday for Truth and Reconciliation Day.
I don't believe it's a provincially recognized holiday, it's certainly federally recognized.
It's almost to the second, because of the day, it's all on Saturday, but it's 2 days to.
Monday, October 2nd, which is noted in the calendar.
Hmm.
Our legislative services coordinator is on it.
Thank you for that. I didn't realize that it was one of those days that went to a midweek day as opposed to falling on the actual day.
nor did that. I'm glad that came up. All right, subject to all of that then, might I have a motion to approve the council meeting calendar for 2023 with a change of dates for council strategic planning session from February 1st and 2nd to January 25th and 26th. Councillor Calderanti, thank you. Any debate on that? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And I believe that completes our agenda, although when I got to that last time, I thought, Councillor Demota, you were going to raise something else?
No, that was, you addressed it.
All right, I believe then that we have attended to the necessary business of an organizational meeting. I would invite a motion to adjourn. Councillor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, Councillor Waxer, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Demota, for your service over the last 2 months. You have been saddled with some very lengthy meetings, and you performed well. So thank you. And thank you to any members of the public who joined us for this organizational meeting. see everybody back in a week's time roughly for a regular council meeting at 1:30 in the afternoon.